This program is proudly brought to you by Jane's Bar at the Dome. And remember Cup Eve, hardcore party and dancing to the sounds of UK DJs from midnight till midday.
Good evening and welcome to Squeal here on venderVeen Channel 31, and it is your community station. And let's get right into it today. And first off, cab off the rank. Thank you, Miss Jane, for my chubba chub from last night. Let's introduce the Squealers. I had to get that in. Peter Ware on the end.
3 years I've been doing
Peter Ware and Troy O'Grady. Monique, what's your last name? And Amy Hoo down there. And we've been joined today by Jaqui Tamba. Make her welcome, please. Otherwise known as Trevor Forever.
Oh,
Drag
that's very
king
funny.
extraordinaire. All right.
Okay. I'm going straight in.
Go for it, man.
Do we have to introduce Auslan person?
Let's do that, shall we? You jumped the gun. We're not doing very well today at all. Our Auslan interpreter today is Kylie Scott. Make her welcome as well, please. Oh, can we start again?
Sorry, boy, you can take the boy out of the host seat, but you can't take the host out of the boy. I just read a really interesting...
Host seat out.
More on that later. I just read a really interesting story this week about nudists. Apparently, they are just as likely to criticise other nudists' bodies as anyone else. Because I always think that nudists are going to be really open-minded and, you know, free-thinking about other people's bodies, but they're not. They're just as bitchy as us. So, I mean, I find that kind of interesting.
You're not a nudist.
Oh, God, no. No, I'm not a nudist.
So does that mean really the nudists actually perv on other nudists?
Well, I don't think they're perv. I think they're not perving. They're sort of like doing the whole...
Look at that jelly bit there. And
Exactly. Well, no, that defeats the whole purpose, I imagine.
How can you walk around with that?
Exactly. I know.
That bottom dragging down on his ankles.
So I just thought if there are any nudists watching...
Those fried egg bosoms under their arms.
Yeah, because the nudist, there was a nudist that actually did the research, and I just wondered if any nudists are out there, let us know what you think. Is that true? Please come in here, and we'll judge you.
Especially if you're cute.
That's right. But although it shouldn't matter as a nudist, should it?
No.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. I did. I thought...
Oh, is it my turn?
Oh, God,
Yes. Right. Well, just on something else that's interesting. A nice picture I have for you again. Can we see that? This is a guy that is actually magnetic. Do we have one? And things stick to him, and it's unfounded, but he has some type of skin disorder or something. But these things are actually sticking to him magnetically.
That's more than a skin disorder, surely.
Myself.
I think it's sensational.
So does he have magnetism?
Yes. I did quickly read it, but yeah, that word was mentioned.
Animal magnetism.
So like, imagine wearing that out to a dance party. You'd be the top of the range.
Yeah.
Oh man. I want to figure out how to do it. I'm not just sort of rub my...
like that.
I don't think you'd want to go to a leather club though. You might find that you're in the middle of the crowd suddenly.
Yeah. I think he'd do all right for himself dressing like that though.
I'd have a hard time
personally.
practicing safe sex with those forks on, I think. Now, Miss Virgin Squealer.
Oh, well, I wanted to actually just talk about, there's a little article in one of the papers, MCV I think it was, about Anne Hesh. Now, as we all know, Anne Hesh was a lesbian for a short period of time, and I think she said she was gay. She seemed happy. We all thought she was happy, but unfortunately, she was just testing the waters. But there's some controversy from her about the fact that some TV article, magazine decided to ask about her husband's sexuality, so she got fairly fired up about this and felt that this was really invasive. Now, I've just recently come back from the States where I watched a interview with Anne Hesh and Barbara Walters where she actually stated she was from the planet Celestia. So perhaps we need to leave it to you as to whether asking about her husband's sexuality was really invasive or whether being from the planet Celestia means that you're more private about certain things than you are.
There has to be certain privacy conditions, I think.
I just remember when she was a lesbian and she didn't stop talking about it the whole time. So why is she suddenly all about it now? You know?
Freaked out about it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you know, so 1999 is a big lesbian.
I think the drugs wore off.
What about that?
It was
I
so
think
cool
she's
back
on the
then as well.
medication now.
Very 1990.
You got to remember in Hollywood, the gay thing was so cool back then. So, and it's not, you know, it's just
now
so
being an
normal.
alien is
Yeah, but now being aliens is cool, obviously.
Just a fact.
Maybe these two need some privacy. This is
Oh, look.
we saw this in the paper this week. I mean, how is this? This looks so badly. Like they're gonna kiss John Howard's eyes.
So beautiful.
No, oh god, they make a
Don't they
gorgeous
remind you of
couple.
Elton and David?
I think this is actually what Howard was referring to when he went on about mateship. Saga, maybe. I'd also like to say hi to my mum, and I'm wearing this badge for my mum today, and it says. Sorry I missed church, but I was busy practicing witchcraft and becoming a lesbian. Hi, Mum. Mwah. We love you.
Becoming a witch and practicing lesbian.
Yeah. And I also wanted to say hi to... I also want to say hi to Laura, who jumped out of a plane on Saturday. I think that's pretty cool.
Was she pushed?
Did she
Did it of her own accord.
Did she have something strapped to her back?
Another person,
Apart from the
apparently.
girl?
So it was fun for a short time, and then it got ugly.
All right, time for some entertainment, guys. You ready for it?
Slam the... Oh, sorry. Now it's time for Mr. Entertainment, our very own Troy Ware.
Hey, Troy.
Jeez, don't get too excited. All right. Now, you might all know the group Steps. Well, Faye Tozer from the group Steps, her fiancé is embarrassed to be seen in public with her. The reason for this is he is from a very huge Danish heavy metal rock band, One. He's a drummer, and now the fans of him just are not happy seeing them together, and they just think it's not the right image. A quick one here for Tabitha. Barbara Streisand is doing a Christmas record.
Oh, yeah.
Barbara.
Why?
Wait for that.
The Royal Shakespeare Society.
I love her. Wait, cool.
The Royal Shakespeare Society's latest production, Romeo and Juliet, are very keen to attract big, high-profile names, including Morgan Freeman. They're also desperate to entice our very own Kylie to play Juliet. Now, who isn't trying to get Kylie at the moment? She is just wanted by everyone.
She's a bit old to play Juliet, don't you think?
Anyway, now, a new all-boy band.
Kylie.
That time of the month
We got a big
again.
one here, big one. A new all-boy band, soon to hit a stage and begin their career here in Melbourne, goes by the name of G-Boy Crew. Now, already before they've even come out and done their act or anything, they're already having their sexuality questioned. Now, like any other good boy band, they're all in big denials of it, of course. But just ask me, or just tell me, what does the G stand for in G-Boy Crew? And just lastly, Madonna reportedly has turned down a $3 million deal to write and perform a theme song for the highly anticipated new Russell Crowe movie, A Beautiful Mind. Madonna said she was too busy doing her own movie.
She's a busy woman.
Well, I mean, you know, we can all just turn $3 million down these days, can't we?
I do all the time.
Yeah.
That's very bad.
Now, another one for Tabitha is that they are doing a Buffy mega musical spectacular thing, apparently. The creators of Buffy the Vampire Slayer have organised in between shooting. So that's what it says here in the paper. It must be true. She's been a figure skater and a dancer, and apparently she moves like, you know, and we've seen her do it.
Well, she's very good.
But if she doesn't watch it, Dark Angel's going to take over as my new Darkon. She's pretty cool. Now, a very special hello to Costa down at Costa's Corner, and Keep that espresso machine hot. I'll be down there later. All right, now we have news with Mr. Bill Calder from B News. Take it away, Bill.
Thanks, Paul. In the B News headlines this week, we see gay politicians brawling over election preferences deal. Two of Australia's leading gay political figures are at odds over a preference deal that may threaten the Senate position of one of Australia's two openly gay federal parliamentarians, Greens Senator Bob Brown. The spat shows that there is no love lost between rival parties on the left of Australian politics. Australia's other openly gay federal parliamentarian, Democrat Senator Brian Gregg, denies as ludicrous any suggestion that a deal had been struck in order to defeat Brown. Record figures have been released this week for B News. Having topped the 20,000 mark for the first time, circulation of B News is now the highest ever achieved by a gay and lesbian publication in Victoria. According to figures from the Circulation's Audit Board, in the half year to September, B News circulation averaged 20,043, up from an average of 19,557 in the previous half year. Moving into state, we find the trial of Greg Fisher and Jonathan Broster, two directors of the failed satellite gay publishing group, was aborted in Sydney this week following the illness of Fisher and two of the jurors. The trial will probably be rescheduled for next year. And finally, Montreal appears to have a slight lead over Chicago as the preferred venue for Gay Games 7 in 2006, while next year's Sydney Games say they are back on track after threatened derailment due to financial crisis and events in the United States. Back to you, Paul.
Okay, thanks, Bill. All right, let's talk briefly about the Rainbow Gong Show that's coming up. clapping, bunch of Sarah Marie's. Friday, the 2nd of November. I wish it was another week away. 7:30 at the Greyhound Hotel, which is number 1 Brighton Road, St Kilda. It is a Bent TV fundraiser, and it's going to be a gold coin entry donation at the door. Totally, yeah, nice. We accept notes as well.
Just empty it.
I've got some scoops on some more acts that'll be entering.
Fantastic.
Shay, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, will be...
she's going to be singing?
She's going to be making up something for the night.
Yeah, no one's going to gong her off, though.
Someone with talent, that's not good.
And, yes, and I will be doing... It's at 9...
Oh, the show is at 9 o'clock next Friday night. It starts at 7:30, but the show actually goes on stage at 9 o'clock.
Okay. And I don't know if I wanted to let this slip, but I will be doing the vagina monologues. So if you missed Miss Lesbian Victoria, I guess you'll get a chance to see it again.
Does that tie in with the nudist thing that we were talking about before?
I won't be nude.
You won't be nude.
I will be wearing clothes.
Well, you won't be nude, but apparently Robbie and Nicole Kidman are nude in their new video that they're doing together, so that should be... Who's Robbie? Nude. Coming back shortly, we have the Tivoli Lovelies come back and see us. This is Squeal Bent TV. Welcome back here to Squeal on Channel 31, and our guests today are the Tivoli Lovelies, Vicki Charlestone and Robin Collins. Make them very welcome, please. Welcome along, ladies. Now, the reason that you've come in here today is to talk about Hats Off, which we talked about last week as well with the lovely Annie Feeling. And now you ladies are actually performing on the night.
We certainly are.
How fantastic.
Yes.
It's going to be something.
Little tap shoes are out and ready.
Now, did I hear some taps before? Have you got some?
Oh, I can do anything if you like. If any reason.
But she prefers to tap on a table.
Table tap.
I need a very...
Dancing. That's cool. We can open a new club with table tap dancing.
Yes.
That's nice. We'll close on. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? So, should we talk about the lovelies?
If you'd like.
Okay, I'd love to, yeah.
What would you
definitely.
like to know?
Well, how many? How many of you are there?
Currently there are 11.
Alive, she said.
Well, currently 11 alive.
Passed away members as well.
What's the average age like, or what's the age span of?
Do you really need to know?
That's what I was going to say. My mother told me never to ask that question.
I know, that's why I had to, because everyone out there really wants to know.
Our average age now is 70, going on
Something.
Wow.
Well, now somebody has worked out how many years we've all spent on this earth between us, and it's a dreadful lot of numbers. Dreadful lot of numbers.
Okay.
Besides Richard's age also.
So when did the Tivoli Lovelies come to be?
What do you mean? The second life of us?
Oh, right. So you are career girls originally, and this is
Not original. But they're not 100, no.
No, more than that. Tivoli first opened in 1800 and something.
That's
so
right.
no, we're not.
So you
My
didn't
God,
have to
what's
travel
your
through the
secret?
tunnels between the various theatres that they used to have underneath.
But there is one in Hobart.
Yes.
Theatre Royal in Hobart.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. They used to
Yeah.
have their tunnels underneath
That's
all the
right.
old theatres in
That's
Melbourne,
exactly
so all the
right.
girls could travel from one show to the next.
I'm
And
afraid
they
that's
kill
a
them
fallacy.
quickly.
That's actually a bit of a fallacy because in the days before our time, during our time too, for that matter, we used to run madly through the streets to get from the theatre to the nightclubs to the whatever.
Yeah.
Because the more you worked, the more money you earned, and we didn't earn a lot.
No, for sure.
Trust me.
Great.
How much was it? How much did you earn?
In our time, Vicky's and my time, we were earning mostly £12 a week, which is $24, and there was 10 shillings tax taken out of that, and every time you were late on stage or talked on stage or were late to arrive at the theatre or lost a hat or a glove or anything, you'd be fined 5 shillings, 10 shillings, whatever.
Wow.
So where can we see you perform besides Hats Off?
Well, we were just saying last year we did 22 performances, which probably doesn't sound a lot, but for us in our age it was a heap. We've done more this year, but we have been to Adelaide. Woo.
Some of us get very excited about it.
Old South Australian here.
Oh, and they did look after us well, and
It's a very hospitable town. I just wanted to live there again, that's all.
So your routine's very energetic. You must all be pretty fit.
oh,
Fairly fit.
Yeah.
well, there's another Tivoli lady says no, not all at the one time. We're not.
All right, so we've got Hats Off coming up on Sunday, the 11th of November at 8 p.m. at the National Theatre, which is the corner of Barclay Street and Carlisle Street in St Kilda. Tickets are $40 and $30 concession and available from Ticketek. And don't forget that it is an Oz Showbiz Cares Equity Fights AIDS fundraiser, which means that the money raised, the proceeds raised from that, actually go back into the HIV community to help with their fight to continue on just getting respite. Now, we are very fortunate today to have some footage of the ladies performing, and we're going to go and have a look at that right now. Now, I wish you guys could hear what we were talking about. Just on. Forget rock and roll bands and Mick Jagger and the Stones, trashing hotel rooms. These ladies know how to party.
School is weak.
It's time for our second instalment from Bill. Take it all. Oh, spitting everywhere. Bye.
Thank you, Paul. In this week's B News Forum, we take a look at the upcoming federal election and ask the question, who should the GLBT community vote for? There are two main arguments going around at the moment. One is we should vote for the party with the best policy, and that means taking a look at the Greens or the Democrats and giving our support to them. The other argument is that we should look to the major parties, Labor or Liberal. They're the ones who are going to be in government and able to make decisions that affect us. For myself, I'm going with the party that has the best policies, and my preferences will flow through eventually to the major parties from there. But I'd love to know how the Squealers intend voting.
We don't talk politics.
I only enrolled to get rid of Pauline Hanson, so...
I intend to go to the booth, wait in line, and then get the card and mark the correct spot.
And I'm going to scribble them all out and put Sarah Marie.
Yeah. How about Sarah?
Sorry, Bill, you asked the wrong group of people about political questions, I think.
But we will be talking to the Greens about
We will
their
be.
policies
We've got some very
soon.
serious stuff coming up a bit later, yes, about the Greens. So,
So maybe we'll have to consider that. But while we are talking about policies, I want to remind everyone that this isn't a two-party system, and you don't have to vote for Liberal or Labor.
No.
You know, and so many people say to me, "Oh yeah, but if you vote for one of the lesser parties, then you know it's a wasted vote." It's not a wasted vote. It's only a wasted vote because so many people go, "Oh, it's a wasted vote. I'm not going to vote for them." If enough people voted for them, they would get in. It would make a difference.
No, Amy, that's true.
Thinking.
There you go. We're not all ignorant and full of fluff.
I am.
I chose to be for a long time, and a girlfriend of mine said, "But you know, how can you have a voice if you're not involved to vote?" So I did, as I said, to get rid of Pauline Hanson, and now I just think it's a pain in the ass, actually, because in my opinion, they are all a bunch of big fat liars that are only after their own gain and everything, and they don't give a shit about us at all. So if I had my way, I'd abolish all government, and we'd be self-ruling. Yeah, totally, anarchy. Oh well, the rest of the world can do it.
For PM.
Let's wrap up. Hats Off is coming up Sunday, the 11th of this year, 8 p.m. National Theatre. Ticketex from Ticketek. Yes, and he's left that Ticketek jingle with us, hasn't she? Ladies, thank you so much for coming in today and for the footage. And we look forward very much to seeing you perform on the night for Hats Off. Make sure you can all get along there. All right, we will be back very shortly. This is Squeal. By the end of the show, because everyone leaves when they've done their bit, and it's just us four sitting here, clap five, sitting here, clap that. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, that'd be six. What is it with names and bloody numbers today? Oh, I just want to go back to bed. All right, no one's joined us or anything like that, so it's just going to be us here. But we do have a few very special things to talk about. First, it is Troy Boy's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Troy. And the lovely Ross as well, who's out there working today. So Ross, happy birthday for today. And our very, very big warmest wishes go out to the lovely Miss Vic, who is celebrating her happy 45 still alive birthday this week as well. So big,
Happy birthday.
big
Probably all see her out there partying.
Oh yeah, I'm
somewhere.
sure she's out and about there. Now, there's a little thing that I picked up this week. The day they won't forget. You know, everyone talks about the day JFK got shot. Where were you? And the day for us until recently, it was where were you? The day that Lady Diana died, and everyone I talk to still remembers, and I remember the feeling. Now we've had something else that's gone on in the world with September 11th in the States. And they were just asking different celebrities where they were and what they were doing while that was going on. But we have someone here today that was actually there while it was all happening. So maybe you want to tell us where you were while...
Well, I was actually sitting in an apartment about 16 blocks down from the World Trade Center and didn't actually hear the buildings collapse or the initial explosions, but... actually was alerted by my friend's sister, who rang up very concerned, turned on the telly like most other people probably did, heard all the sirens continuously, and at first I didn't take much notice of the sirens, and but you know, they kept coming and coming and coming, and eventually watched it live on telly, which was quite shocking. I mean, I could have walked out the door and walked about 10 feet and seen it for myself, but for some reason I didn't feel like doing that. It was actually a fairly bizarre experience because I've been to New York before, and you know, it's a fairly busy, happening place, and what I found when I walked outside the door, besides the amount of dust and I probably wouldn't say ash, but just the sort of dust, and there was lots of people walking around with sort of dust and debris on them, but the amount of people that were just walking in no particular direction, so there was this total actual sense of just these people were stepping off the curb everywhere, and if you've ever been to New York, I was really shocked that no one was killed by a cab, because the cab drivers are quite insane there anyway, but so there was this bizarre sort of, you know, like this bus came past and so it looked like somebody had dropped a 50-kilo bag of flour on top of it and just flying off as it came up the street. And I walked further down to West 4th Street, which is Washington Square Park, because I needed to just walk and be with people. And on the way there was sort of good things. People were sharing their mobile phones and stuff like that, and there was actually clumps of people around the homeless people that had radios and things like that, and people listening, and so, you know, you walked on and the smoke was fairly thick, it was quite acrid, it was probably something that you wouldn't want to ever smell again. It was fairly strong, and it stayed around for, I mean, it's, you know, still smoking.
What about, like, when did you come back from there?
I managed to get out of there 2 days later because I was fairly freaked out at the time.
I was going to say how it's changed since then, but you left pretty soon after.
Yeah, my friend said it's still sort of, you know, people are pretty sort of still shocked. But the night after, we went out for dinner down in Greenwich Village, and it was absolutely silent. It was absolutely silent. There was no cars, and you could hear people's footsteps, which was really spooky in New York. It was like there's just noise all the time, so it was quite a bizarre experience. But you know, some people came together, and you know, ended up having this guy cry on me for about an hour in Washington Square Park, and
it really does. It brought, unfortunately, the worst out, but it brought the best out in a lot of people as well. And there's a, I don't know. I mean, you know, I can only. It's something that we can't even fathom. Being over here and watching on the telly, it's all just, you know, a Hollywood blockbuster. It's
bizarre, and then you've
real.
got fighter jets flying over really low around all the buildings to protect you, and so, you know, it was fairly, coming from a quiet place like Australia, it was a fairly scary experience. But I think now we're going to head over to the news desk
Oh, good.
for some other news.
She's a good squealer.
In one moment, we're but before that, we're going to talk about Greyhound. Travelled Greyhound. I wouldn't recommend it. 55 hours on the bus to get out of New York with a lot of other freaked out people. Here's the news desk.
Take it away, Bill.
Thank you. Look, I'm just going to wrap up with the B News community announcements this week. In the paper this week, we feature all the Cup weekend events with our 16-page Cup of Indulgence lift-out. So check out that program on the streets now, covering the full 5 days from November 2 until November 6. In other events, check out the Rainbow Gong Show, a fundraiser for Bent TV. The Rainbow Gong Show will be an old-fashioned style gong show for drag or non-drag acts who will be playing for a major prize. The show will be held Friday, November 2 at the Greyhound from 7:30pm. And put the B News first birthday party in your diary. It's on at the Market Hotel in Commercial Road, South Yarra, Thursday, November 15, starting 6pm. Showtime and guaranteed celebrity guests from 7pm. There will be a second show at 8:30pm. It's free entry, everyone is welcome, so come on down after work. And now, appearing on your screen as I speak are all the contact details for Bent TV. And please note that there will be a new telephone and fax number showing on your screen now. And that phone number, now that you've had a moment to grab your pen, is 0404 114 346. And the fax number is not on your screen, but next week we promise to have it there.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. And just to let you know that our squealnews@qmail.com.au closes on the 31st. Qmail no longer is existing after the 31st. There is a new email address, squeal@start.com.au. Squeal@start.com.au. That is us done for today. Thank you, the Tibbly Lovelies. Big thank you to Kylie Scott, our Auslan interpreter today. Thank you, Kylie. Woo! Thank you for coming in today, Jackie. And
Thank you. Just to mention King Victoria, Drag Kings, blah, blah. We're great. Come down and see us at the Star Hotel Friday night.
Yep.
now, someone very close to you is in the outro tonight, from what I understand. So we might go and have a look at that. Thank you, every Squealers. I'm not going to go through your names. No. That's it. We're out of time to go. Bye. Kisses. Ta-ta. Bye-bye. Come back next week.
You guys, the dog from Warland Bull struck the Collingwood town. She wandered over street and park. She wandered up and down. She loitered here, she loitered there, till she was like to drop. Until at last in she despaired, she sought a barber shop. She said, yeah, shave my head and wax my legs. I'll be a lipstick dyke. I'll go and do the Collingwood tough up home in Warland Bull. The hairdresser girl was short and flash as hairdressers mostly are. She wore a strike your fancy sash and she smoked a very big cigar. She was a humorist of note and keen at repartee. And she liked the odds and kept the tape, whatever that may be. And when she saw our dyke arrive, she whispered, here's a lark. I like to catch this dykehead from Warland Bull all unawares. So there was some polystyrene used that sat along the barber's wall. Their heads were flat and their eyes were dull and they had no brains at all. To them the barber passed a wink, her rightmost eyelid shut. She said, I'm going to make this bloomin' dykehead think her bloomin' head is cut. And so she stuck the razor in the boiling hot water, something like that. And it was very hot anyway. And as she lifted up her arm, she paused a while to gloat, then slashed the red-hot razor back across the poor dog's head. Ooh, upon the newly shut skin it made a livid mark. No doubt it fairly took her in, the dog from Warland Bull. She fetched the wild up country, yeah, might wake the dead to hear. Although she knew full well her head was cut from ear to ear, she struggled butch-like to her feet and faced her murderous foe. You've done for me, you homophobe, but one hit before I go. I only wish I had a knife, you blessed murdering shark, but you'll remember all your life the dog from Warland Bull. So she lifted up her hairy paw and with one tremendous clout landed on the barber's jaw and knocked the heterosexual out. She said they work with teeth and nails. She made that place a wreck. She grabbed the nearest polystyrene youth and tried to break his neck. And all the while her head she held to save her vital spark. And murder, bloody murder, yelled that dog from Ware and Bull. Just then a dog on a bike who heard the din came in to see the show. She tried to take her hero out, but she refused to go. And then when at last the hairdresser spoke and said 'twas all in fun, a little harmless joke, a trifle overdone. A joke, she cried, by Gene, that's a lively sort of lark. I'd like to, pardon, get you sometime at home in Ware and Bull. And now, all round the factory floor, the listening locals gape. She tells the story, awe and awe, and she brags of her escape. Them hairdresser girls will keep the tote, by Gene, I've had enough. One tried to cut my head, but thank the goddess it's tough. And whether she's believed or not, there's one thing to remark, that hairy heads and legs are all the go way up in Ware and Bull.
This program is proudly brought to you by Jane's Bar at the Dome. And remember Cup Eve, hardcore party and dancing to the sounds of UK DJs from midnight till midday, Tuesday.
Hey, and welcome back. This is a Squeal Extra, and today we're here to help the Greens, Australian Greens, launch their gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex persons policy. I'm Paul Eglinton, your host of the panel over here today. And let's introduce the rest of the Squealers today. We have Ralph McLean on the end. Hi, Ralph. Hi, Paul. Next to him is Chris Sloan. Welcome, Chris. Thank you, Paul. Down on the end, our own bombshell, Sally Goldner. Thanks, Paul. And next to me, Amy Henderson. Hi, Amy. Hey. How you doing? Now, I just wanted to say that we are here to introduce this today, and it doesn't necessarily mean that any of us are backing any political party, because I believe that's a personal issue for all of us. So let's hear what they have to say, and you can make up your own minds. I'm now going to throw it over to Samantha Roberts.
Hi, my name is Samantha Roberts. I'm here to launch the Australian Greens gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender and intersex policy. I'm also the Victorian Greens co-spokesperson on Globalita issues, and I'm running as a candidate in the upcoming federal election for the seat of Jaqui. I'd like to introduce you to my colleagues. To my right at the end is Alexandra Batal. She's the candidate for Batman. Next to her is Pamela Kerr, the Greens candidate for Melbourne. Immediately to my right is Tony Bruffer, the Greens candidate for Laylaw. And to my left is Jeanette Kavanagh, the Greens candidate for Melbourne Ports. And now I'd like to throw it over to Tony, who is going to officially launch our policy. Thanks, Tony.
Hi everyone, as Samantha just mentioned, I'm Tony Bruffer. I'm running for the seat of Laylaw, or Lawler, for the Australian Greens. I'm proud to be launching the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender and intersex policy today. The Australian Greens have had a very long tradition, as far as from inception, of supporting human rights, and let's face it, well, everything's a human right, but so are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender and intersex issues. And the Greens are the first party in the world to have a national intersex policy. And I'll be honest, I didn't think that all of these issues can be put into the one policy, but I was proved wrong. And I've been working with this policy since April this year, and they've done an amazing job. This policy basically highlights that freedom of sexuality and gender identity are fundamental human rights, and that gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender and intersex issues are important, and they're a valuable part of diversity, and Australia must cherish their significant contributions. The policy is vast, it's 5 pages long, it's also available on our internet site, and it includes provisions for GLBTI related issues around prisons, anti-violence, relationship equality, parenting and families, law, workplace, youth, health and welfare, and transgender and intersex issues. Unlike the policies of the other parties, or the lack thereof, the other parties, they have specific guidelines and goals that are very achievable, and they're quite exhaustive, and I'll invite anybody out there to check their website or to contact the Greens, and we're more than happy to send you out a copy of the policy. I'm proud to be a member of the Greens and proud to be running for them, and I'd like to speak a little bit further about the intersex issues a bit later on. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to ask Alex, how do you think this policy is going to affect your constituents in the seat of Batman, which takes in a high proportion of our particularly lesbian community of Melbourne?
Yes, well, I mean, the northern suburbs of Melbourne are suburbs where young families are moving in and buying up houses or renting houses, and it's really an issue that affects us up there is equal access to IVF and artificial insemination programs. That is a necessity for women who want to start their own families, who've been unable to access other ways of having children. So it is of great concern to me as the candidate for Batman. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Alex. And Pamela, as the candidate for Melbourne, which takes in the inner city suburbs like Brunswick and Fitzroy and Carlton, how do you think that this policy will benefit your constituents?
This policy is a basic human rights policy. There are 1 in 1,000 people born with intersex issues, and they're hidden. This is crazy. These are people who deserve the same rights as other people, and this is important because here they are in black and white. They're set out very clearly so that people know where they stand. It's not good enough to just sweep it under the carpet and pretend nothing's happening. As a nurse back at the Children's Hospital many years ago, I remember how traumatic it was for families. You know, it's almost as if you could say, if your babe was born with one leg, people would be relieved. In comparison to, we don't know if your babe is a boy and a girl or a girl. The babe could be perfectly healthy, but it was created as some enormous problem. The time has moved on, and it's time that these issues were set out in policy so that families and the individuals are protected and have got real ways in which they can live their lives without all this nonsense. Thank you.
Thanks, Pamela. And Jeanette is the candidate for Melbourne Ports, which takes in some really gay heartland areas of Prahran, South Yarra, Albert Park area.
Yes.
Well, how do you think this will affect your constituents?
Well, obviously, as everyone else has said, it is a first in the world, the intersex policy. But I think fundamentally the reason that I'm very proud to stand as a Greens candidate in Melbourne Ports is that I know that our policies are not just rhetoric; they're not just words written on paper to be forgotten at the next election. They're about actually implementing these policies. And on one thing, I noticed that the sitting Labor member, Michael Danby, has allegedly spoken 5 times to John Howard about the same-sex superannuation bill. As a widow who received superannuation because my partner happened to be a man, I wonder how often he's going to have to speak to them before anything is actually done. So I think it's wonderful that we've actually got policies we want to implement.
Thanks, Jeanette. Well, I'll pass it back to the Squeal team.
All right. Well, I think that there's a few of us that might have some questions that we want to throw back to the panel. Who wants to go first?
Well, I'll dive in and throw it to probably Samantha as chair. I suppose the question is, you mentioned that there's a lot of policies that other parties have that are rhetoric, and you've given a substantial commitment, which is great. But in recent years, we've seen that Australia sadly is becoming human in lots of ways on so-called human rights issues, and in particular the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission federally, the Equal Opportunity Commission have had their funding run down. How are you going to be able to, 1, change people's attitudes in general, and 2, give such organisations like that the money to do the things that you've set out?
Well, Sally, basically we need more Greens in Parliament. We need you guys to vote for us so that we have more power in order to implement these policies. At the moment, as you know, we've got one Green Senator, Bob Brown, who can do very, very little into implementing our progressive policies. He can only stand up and voice his concerns, but until people start voting for the smaller parties, such as ourselves, not much can be done about it. That is a reality. But if we were to have the power, we would obviously put more money into areas such as education in particular, and the Human Rights Commission and other such bodies.
Thank you.
Right, Samantha, a question that I've got for you, talking about education, is are you going to remove the GST on books?
Well, the Greens policy is we'd get rid of the GST altogether. We do not support it. We see it as a regressive tax. It unfairly burdens people on lower incomes, and we would replace the GST with eco-taxes on people who pollute the environment, and we would raise the corporate tax rate back up to the 1996 levels that have been reduced by the Liberal government, or the coalition government I should say. So our policy is GST would be gone altogether.
Okay. The Greens are very big on human rights, and I would like to know sort of your policies on other human rights. What about refugees and immigration? I know it's not necessarily related to GLBTI, but the Greens do stand for human rights. So what are your views on that?
Well, I think, if I could take that, I think that the Greens were the first and the only party to actually lobby as soon as the Tampa issue became known. We were the only party that got out there in the streets and actually opposed what was happening to those people on that ship at that time. And certainly since then we do have a number of support groups for refugees. We're totally opposed to the idea that refugees should be jailed as if they're arch criminals. And we've made that known, and I think Pamela particularly has her whole campaign, or most of her campaign, is centred around the refugee issue.
Yes. Look, if you look at the Greens' policies, they're unequivocal. That's get rid of mandatory detention. We have reception centres, as we did in the early 80s. It's about getting global solutions to the problem. It's no good talking about just stopgap measures at this end. The Greens recommends that we convene a global conference about the 22 million people who are seeking a home. And no more mandatory detention, close the desert camps. These are absolutely fundamental. The Greens are very strong on this, and in fact my campaign has been around the refugee issue, and what I'm finding is that people are saying, particularly Labor voters, are saying, I've always voted Labor, but I can't this time on the refugee issue. I will be voting Green. It's the point of difference, and we stand up on it. We might be a minority, but this is a principled stand, and I believe with principled leadership the issue will grow, and the majority of Australians won't be able to stomach what we have seen, the tragedy of this last week.
There's an intersection, of course, as well between like human rights issues generally. The Howard government has been incredibly socially divisive. It's like waged a scaremongering campaign against Aboriginal people with regards to land rights legislation. It's passed retrograde land rights legislation. It has attacked refugees and asylum seekers and misrepresented them, and we have to wonder where it's going to stop. It's going like through the vulnerable groups of our society, and it will not probably stop with refugees and asylum seekers. So you're right to ask the question on the Squeal panel.
And I'd just like to add that this problem is just going to get bigger and bigger, particularly as there is a war on terror that the coalition and that the ALP are supporting, that is displacing millions and millions of people. Yes, and that's the other issue around the Greens. It is no war. Peace is possible, war is not the answer.
Well, thanks. Back to the Squeal team.
Ladies, just one more question for you. What is the Greens doing in the way of HIV, AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases through the community?
Really quickly.
If you could.
We have a policy to fund and restore public health funding. We want to increase public health funding by $4.45 billion. I know that sounds extraordinary, but it's actually an achievable amount of money if we restore the corporate tax. So obviously that is an issue that if we have proper public health, then people with HIV/AIDS can expect treatment and access to treatment.
Right. Well, thank you for that. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you, Squealers. Thank you, candidates. I would just like to say that all the parties were asked to come and talk today, and the Greens are the only one with the policy.
So far, anyway.
That's right.
Actually, I've got to say something, Paul.
You did, Val. Thank you. We're out of here. Make up your own mind.